Hey everybody, Steve Stine from Guitar Zoom here, and in this video what we're going to be doing is looking at some basic chordal theory that we can use to help us figure out how a chord progression goes by ear. Now again, these videos can only discuss so much, and I've just done two other videos for you. The first video talked about the differences between major and minor tonalities of chords and trying to identify that. The second thing was learning to hear chord progressions and whether they move down or up, and using our sixth string to try and figure that out. All right. And now in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to take the major scale and we're going to talk about how chords fit over the top of that. So if we wanted to create what we call a 1-4-5 chord progression or a 1-6-4-5 or things like that, we can actually see that laid out on our fretboard. So again, we're going to go into much greater detail of all of these things in Ear Training Made Easy 2.0. It's a new course I've got coming out. It's an updated version of the old guitar course. A bunch of new content, certainly new video. The other one was getting a little old. And just really important things to think about, so you don't always have to be looking up chord charts and things to figure out your songs. And again, I want to remind you, if you do own the old ear training course, you can get this at an upgraded price. So just so you know. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a scale here on the guitar. And again, I'm going to go through this as quick as I can so I'm not wasting your time. But let's say I did a G major scale. So I did this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. So here's my major scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Okay, so I can visualize that right on my fretboard as going 3, 5, 7, and then the next string 3, 5, 7, and the fourth string going right here, 4th fret to 5th fret. Now the beauty of that scale is if we memorize that, we can play in any key we want. We could go to the key of A and do exactly the same thing. And we're going to get that do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do sound. Now, out of this scale, I'm going to go back to G. What I want to do is I want to look at the first 6 notes, because those first 6 notes give us 6 truly functional and useful chords from any major scale that we want to be in, whether we're in G or A. As you just saw, I can move it around anywhere I want. So from those 6 notes, I'm going to create 6 different chords. So if I'm in the key of G major, my first note is G. My first chord is G major. So whenever you're in a major key, G major or A major or C major or whatever key you want to be in, the first chord is always major. If you're in C major, your first chord is C major. If you're in D major, your first chord is D major. The second chord in any major scale is minor. So in the key of G, our second note is A. So you'll see I'm making bar chords here, of course, here because it's easier to visualize around the fretboard. So when I go to this A, I'm going to make an A minor chord. That's my second chord. So in any major key, G major, or C major, or D major, or whatever, your first chord is major. Your second chord is minor. It just is, okay? You got to trust me on that. Again, there's music theory behind that. I'm not going to go into a big music theory discussion here, but we do talk about that in Ear Training Made Easy 2.0. The third chord in any major scale, okay, is minor as well. So we have G, A, and B. Major, minor, minor. So if I was in the key of C, I could come up to C, plant my major scale right there. My first chord is major, my second chord is minor, my third chord is minor. Okay? So to speed this up a little bit so I don't waste your time, here's how this works. The first chord is major, second chord is minor, third chord is minor, fourth and fifth chords are major, and the sixth chord is minor. So here's the summary. 1-4-5 is major, and 2-3-6 is minor. So if you're in a major key, again, I'm not talking modes and all that stuff, I'm just talking do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. If you're in the key of G, or the key of C, or the key of A, the first and fourth and fifth chords are always major, and the second, third, and sixth are always minor. So if I take my example of G major, I have G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, E minor. So 1, 4, and 5 are major, and 2, 3, and 6 are minor. Now, through a lot of different exercises and things that we're going to do in the guitar course, we're going to learn to hear those, and we're going to hear different, what we call chord progressions, how different chords move to each other. So again, if you think about it, I have relative pitch. I don't have perfect pitch. So I can't hear an E flat minor 7 chord and go, hey, that's E flat minor 7. But what I can hear is a chord progression. So I'm going to shut the camera off right now, and I'm going to play a chord progression for you. So using the information from the last 2 videos, I could hear major and minor chord changes. If I can hear that a chord is minor, again, in logical theory, if I can hear that it's minor, it should be a 2 or a 3 or 6. If I can hear that it's major, it should be a 1 or a 4 or 5. Now, is music theory always perfect? Is every song perfect? No, people do whatever they want. But this gives us a leg up in at least understanding a little bit more of what we're expecting to see. If we're listening to Tom Petty, this stuff's going to work a lot. If we're listening to Slayer, this isn't going to work at all. There's different rules for that sort of thing, right? But if we're listening to regular rock or pop or country or folk music or whatever it might be, blues, we're going to be using this a lot. So with the first video, we learned to hear major and minor, which is really important. In the second video, which hopefully you've watched those, we learned to hear movement. So I can also do that. I'm going to shut the camera off again. When I listen to this chord progression, I can hear the movement. I can hear it going up or down. Now, again, I've been doing this a long time, but that's what the second element it really is about. First element is the chord qualities, right? The second element is hearing the distances. And then now what we're doing is we're thinking, okay, so now we've got this information. If we could use those 2 things, we could start putting that together with this palette that we've got, right? Of being able to hear these chord progressions. So as I'm listening to this, now, of course, I played it for you, so I'm kind of cheating because I know what it is, right? But I know what I'm playing there is a 1, 5, 6, 4 chord progression. It's a very common chord progression. So now I'll show you. If I was playing from G, I'm going to the 5 chord, which is D, going to the 6 chord, which is E minor, and then going to the 4 chord, which is C. Now, I'm telling you honestly, if I heard that in the car, I would know that it's a 1, 5, 6, 4 chord progression. What I wouldn't be positive on is whether it's in the key of G. It might be in the key of A. I can't really hear that well, okay? But when I got back to my guitar, I could put it where it needs to be and figure it out, okay? The other thing that's really nice about this is if you can hear those things and you go to your guitar, maybe you do play it in the key of A, right? If you're not playing along with the original song, it doesn't really matter, right? You might have to readjust it anyway to accommodate your singer or whatever the case may be. So learning how to hear things first and not go to your guitar and try and figure it out, it saves you a lot of time, okay? Because you can already start kind of planning out how things are going to go and whether they're major or minor. I talk about intervals in the guitar course, just in case you do a lot of singing or you want to learn how to harmonize, things like that, or you just want to know what the distance really is. So you're not just running around on your guitar trying to figure out how far down or how far up something is. You can actually hear those intervals. So hopefully you'll check out the guitar course Ear Training Made Easy 2.0, the updated version of this. There's going to be a link somewhere nearby here for you to check that out. And stay positive and keep practicing.